Hi again, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to part 2 of the Steven Spielberg tier rankings. The first one covered Spielberg's films from 1971 to 1989. Part 2 here is going to cover 1990 to 2009. Interestingly, it's going to have the same number of films, 13. So kind of an interesting coincidence there. That first tier ranking with those initial films obviously covered some really indelible, iconic films that have stood the test of time and will probably continue to do so, including Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., just some truly iconic movies in the history of cinema. Today, we're going to cover this interesting period in Spielberg's career in which he has more of these iconic, hugely important films, but those are balanced out by more mediocre films, and including one that I think is the worst film that he has made. So it's an interesting up and down period. That said, let's get right back into this and dive in with, as I just said, I think it's the worst of all Steven Spielberg films, which is Hook. Hook, I'm going to agree with Roger Ebert on this one, the famed movie critic with whom I didn't always agree. In fact, he and I disagreed a lot on film, but this one I think he nailed by saying that everything you need to know about this film is included in the title. It's just a hook. What if Peter Pan grew up? Unfortunately, Steven Spielberg tells us. And it's an adult Robin Williams who is basically in his worst kind of over-the-top mode. The entire film just doesn't work, where he doesn't remember the bulk of his childhood, and then he's got to go and fight Captain Hook again because Hook kidnaps Peter Pan's children. He goes back to Neverland, which is just an endless series of really hokey-looking sets, and Julia Roberts is terrible as Tinkerbell, and again, Robin Williams is very annoying as the adult Peter Pan. I don't think any of it works. It's at times just painful to watch. The only thing about this is it prevents it from even falling even lower is Spielberg's talent is such that he makes even something like this watchable at times, although I just don't think it works at all. Spielberg himself, I'll leave it up to him. He has said in repeated interviews that he does not like this movie in a lot of ways. He wishes he could go back and redo it. I think that's all you need to know. All right, that's followed up with a huge rebound in Jurassic Park that obviously goes into that top S tier. This is one of the ultimate strikeouts followed by a 500-foot home run. Jurassic Park was the biggest moneymaker of all time when it came out internationally, and was until Titanic came around 4 years later. This movie is so much fun, so exciting, so perfectly captures Michael Crichton's novel, and the changes that are made are changes that need to be made, transferring a story from the page to the screen. It never eases up. It is a 2-hour roller coaster ride that keeps you on the edge of your seat. The special effects were groundbreaking and changed the course of cinema, and it is just one wild, great ride. Makes you feel like a kid again. Harkens back to Spielberg really hitting his stride with Jaws and with a lot of parallels in terms of the excitement and the storytelling. Absolute perfect action film. He has an amazing 1993 because that is the summer of that year. That's followed up with Schindler's List in December. This is another iconic piece of filmmaking. It wins the Oscar for Best Picture. It earns Spielberg his first Oscar for Best Director. It is a landmark movie. It is the quintessential Holocaust feature film, and it is emotionally shattering, devastating. Everything about it is spot on, from the acting by Liam Neeson as the title character, Oscar Schindler, to Ben Kingsley as his Jewish accountant, to Ralph Fiennes as an absolutely sadistic and truly evil Nazi concentration camp commandant. It needs to be seen by everybody at least once, as tough as it is to watch at times, because of how important it is. The only criticism that I think you can level at it, and it's one that even Steven Spielberg's close friend Stanley Kubrick leveled at it, was that in true Spielbergian fashion, he's focusing even on a story of the Holocaust in a somewhat positive way, in that he takes this character, and it's based on a true story, this character of Oskar Schindler, who enters the war as a war profiteer, just looking to make a quick buck and get out with some money by war's end. He doesn't really think about the morality of what it is that he's doing, the morality of what's going on around him, especially obviously to the Jewish people that he is exploiting as workers, until he has a change of heart and undergoes a moral metamorphosis and comes to see not only what he is doing is wrong, but he's witnessing it as a part of a genocide, and tries to at least reverse his part in it to a certain degree. And the Schindler's List of the title is a list of people whom he saves, who then go on to have generations of children who wouldn't exist if Schindler had not saved them. Kubrick's criticism of the film is that it focuses on a few hundred lives saved that go on to produce thousands of lives. But Kubrick said that's not the story of the Holocaust. The story of the Holocaust is not a story of lives saved, but of 6 million lives lost. And that should be the focus. Kubrick himself wanted and had plans to make his own Holocaust movie, a movie called Aryan Papers, which he never made because of this film. Would have been a much, much darker look of this darkest of chapters in human history. Nonetheless, Schindler's List, despite some flaws, is an amazing, amazing film, and certainly one of the most important films ever made. All right, so he's so drained by this experience of putting these two films together, working on the special effects for Jurassic Park as he's filming Schindler's List. Schindler's List just completely drains him emotionally. He takes a 4-year break and then comes back with a sequel to Jurassic Park, The Lost World, which I think is a pro forma sequel. He's kind of painting by the numbers here, going through the motions. Again, it's Spielberg, so it's going to hit on some level, and it's going to have moments of real brilliance, highlighted by a sequence in which a trailer is hanging over the edge of a cliff, and Jeff Goldblum and Julianne Moore are trying to get out of it before the glass totally shatters, plunging them to the ocean below. That's the highlight of the entire movie, which centers on dinosaurs on another island near the one from the original. And there are two rival teams, and one of them wants to take a Tyrannosaurus Rex back to San Diego to put it on display. It has real echoes, purposeful echoes to King Kong from 1933, of taking this terrible creature back and exploiting it for money. But there's also echoes of Godzilla, which he makes a direct kind of reference to in the film. A lot of it doesn't work, and that whole last act doesn't work very well. Again, not a great sequel, not Spielberg at the height of his game. All right, in the same year, he comes out with Amistad, the story about African slaves who stage a mutiny aboard a ship outside of Cuba, and the ship is intercepted by an American ship, and the slaves are captured, and there's a debate about whom they belong to, which is a terrible phrase and idea in and of itself. These are human beings and don't belong to anybody as property, but that's the way that they're treated. And this is based on a real story from 1839, or starts in 1839, and winds its way through the American court system about their legal standing, what rights they have, who has control over them. And it's a really emotionally impactful analysis and look at the human condition, what it is that makes us human, racism, this darkest chapter of American history, with a really good performance from Anthony Hopkins as John Quincy Adams, who argues the case for the slaves and their freedom before the U.S. Supreme Court, and Matthew McConaughey as a abolitionist lawyer, Morgan Freeman as his assistant. Some really, really good stuff here, but it's uneven, and it works, and I'm going to put it in that B tier. It's a good film, not a great film, but definitely worth seeing, and certainly something that should be probably viewed in high school history classes. with some disclaimers about the actual history that took place. This is followed by Saving Private Ryan, which is going to be one of the controversial picks, I think, here by me. I'm not going to put it in that S tier. I'm going to put it in the A tier. And I'm sure that's going to generate some controversy and some debate, and people are going to think that I've completely lost my mind here. What am I thinking? I'll tell you what I'm thinking. The movie is a tour de force in its opening sequence at Omaha Beach, which is the most brilliant, intense depiction of war ever put on film. That in and of itself, that 20 some odd minute sequence is an S tier all by itself. And again, the greatest war sequence ever filmed. The sequence at the end in the fictional town of Rommel, as they are finding the Private Ryan of the title so that they can save him, since his brothers have died at this assault at Omaha Beach, and they're trying to save the family the loss of all of its sons. Those two sequences are amazing. The middle is a real problem, I believe, in terms of script. It's the weakest aspect of the movie and what prevents it from moving into that top tier. There's these great bookends of these war sequences, and there's not a lot in the middle that fires on all cylinders, and that holds it back. So, and a lot of it is schmaltzy, which has been the knock against Spielberg from the very beginning, that he's too much schmaltz. He kind of lets that get the better of him from time to time. I think it happens here. A tier. But I'd love to hear your comments if you disagreed. Happy to exchange ideas. That's what this is all about. All right, this is followed by AI. And again, somewhat controversially, I'm sure, I'm going to put this in that S tier. I think this is an absolutely amazing film, among the best of the 21st century. I would put it in the top 20 of the 21st century. The New York Times ranked it high in its list of the best films of the 21st century. It's an amazing exploration of what it is to be human, highlighted by perhaps the greatest child performance of them all, by Haley Joel Osment, who did another one with The Sixth Sense. I think this performance is even better when he plays a robot child yearning to be a real boy, which echoes the Pinocchio story, which is very much at the forefront here. They're not making any bones about the fact that they're doing that. And he's trying to recapture the love, or capture the love, of his human mother, and he believes that by making himself a real boy, or becoming a real boy, that she will love him. It's such an emotionally devastating idea, and the performances and the journey along the way that this boy takes with the aid of a robot played by Jude Law and his mechanical teddy bear is truly amazing, very emotional, and absolutely worth seeing. It also has echoes of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and in terms of theme, what does a creator owe its creation, and what is the morality or immorality of letting it wander through the world on its own? Some really, really big philosophical questions. I think it's an amazing film, worthy of that top tier. Okay, this is followed by another science fiction film, which is Minority Report. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think it falls a little bit short. It's a somewhat dark story, and again, a really interesting idea philosophically, with the film based on this concept of stopping murder before it happens, because there are these human beings who have been changed by a drug so that they can actually accidentally, but it turns out they can see events of the future. They can see murders before they happen. The people who were quote unquote going to commit the crimes are charged with the crimes, even though they didn't actually commit them, that they're charged for crimes they would have committed. A fascinating concept. How can you be charged, convicted, or punished for a crime you never actually committed? It is a great meditation on the idea of free will versus determinism. And it's very well done, but it does have some plot holes, particularly in some of the car chases and chase sequences. The title itself is based on this concept that ends up primarily being a red herring. And that's maybe the most disappointing aspect of the movie overall. So these things hold it back from that top level, but another really fun, wild ride and a nice performance from Tom Cruise. Okay, that's followed by Catch Me If You Can, another A-tier movie Really fun. It's come under heat lately because it's kind of turns out that the true story in which it's based wasn't really that much of a true story at all. It's based on the memoir of Frank Abagnale Jr., who talked about masquerading as a doctor and as an airline pilot and a lawyer. And Spielberg takes this idea and runs with it, and it's just, again, a ton of fun and a wild ride. It never slows down as Leonardo DiCaprio as Frank is on this great adventure, but he's on it because of the divorce of his parents and the fallout from that he has trouble dealing with. This is obviously a common theme of Spielberg's that he explores in so many films. And Leo's character is largely stand-in for him in some ways. The dad is a stand-in for his own father. Leo's being chased by an FBI agent played by Tom Hanks. It's one of those movies where who are we rooting for? Are we rooting for this guy who's masquerading as these people, taking advantage of people, actually committing crimes? Or are we cheering for Tom Hanks to catch him? The genius of it is we're largely rooting for Frank, and Tom Hanks, we kind of have antipathy towards him, even though he's the good guy trying to catch a bad guy. John Williams, one of his most original, interesting scores. It's kind of jazz-oriented, unlike anything he's done in any other film, and that lends a lot of fun to the film as well. I love watching this film whenever it comes on or happens. It's kind of hard to turn away from it once it gets on the screen and you start watching it. It's a fun ride. Little long. Some of the problems, largely at the end, keep it from getting into that top tier, but it's close. All right, this is followed by The Terminal, again with Tom Hanks, and it's just not that good a movie. This is really, in a lot of ways, should be in that D tier. The reason that it's not is that Spielberg, with his absolute amazing talents, makes it watchable. This film works if you turn your brain off. If you turn your brain off and you just kind of revel in the performances, particularly those of Tom Hanks and Stanley Tucci, it's fun. You kind of forget what's actually happening. But if you plug your brain back in and you consider what's happening, how unrealistic it is, remember how unlikable the characters of Stanley Tucci and Catherine Zeta-Jones as a potential love interest for Tom Hanks are, subplot involving Diego Luna and Zoe Saldana, it's awful. It just defies every bit of common sense, as Tom Hanks is this character from a fictional Eastern European country is trapped in JFK Airport because there's been a coup while he flew to the United States, and the United States no longer recognizes the country from which he came, so he can't get out of the airport because his passport's invalid at this point. The whole thing is just absolutely strains credulity, and ultimately, at least I can't turn my brain off for that long and that hard, and I'm not willing to suspend my disbelief enough to move it up past C. Okay, this brings us to War of the Worlds and Steven Spielberg's return to working with Tom Cruise. This is another one that I don't think works past the opening 30 minutes. So that opening act is really, really good. And there are some great sequences and special effects in the middle portion. And the ending is truly terrible. It just cannot escape that C tier. It's not possible because of those problems. The ending in and of itself torpedoes this movie beyond repair. The ending has, Earth struggles to combat these Martians who have planted themselves here and now go to take over the planet, end up succumbing to Earth's microbes, and they just kind of slowly die off from sickness. And it's so anticlimactic, such a low rate of return for the investment that we've put into it. You just want to demand your money back. At least I did. It's like the ending of the novel Jaws, where the shark just kind of tires itself out, has a heart attack, and sinks to the bottom of the ocean before it can reach Brody, and you have to read it 3 times and say, what? Did that really just happen? It's the same thing here. It's a disappointment, particularly when you got a talent like Cruise, you've got these special effects, you've got a director like Spielberg. It should work way, way better than it does, and it does not. This takes us to Munich, and Munich is another polarizing film that I think is amazing. I think the issues that it's exploring, the way that it's shot, Spielberg's willingness to go dark on this is quite something. It focuses on the assassination of Jewish athletes, Israeli athletes, at the 1972 Olympic Games in Munich, Germany, and the Israeli government's decision to seek retribution for these assassinations. And it's a great meditation on what a country and a people are willing to do and how they're willing to compromise their own morality and principles in the name of vengeance, of revenge. And it's a brilliant echo made in 2005 of our own willingness as Americans to compromise our principles and morality in pursuing vengeance and revenge for the events of 9/11. Is getting back at the people who struck it is worth the cost of what we give up in the process? Do we stoop as low to the people and entities that attacked us? It's a great question, and one that there's not going to be unanimity. Nobody's going to completely agree on this. When you face moral questions like this, there aren't any easy answers. The performances by Eric Bana in particular, Daniel Craig, really, really good. It's long, it's a little uneven in parts. That took heavy fire for a sex scene at the end involving Bana. As a film that asks some very hard questions with no easy answers, it's a really, really, really good movie that I recommend highly. Okay, this brings us finally to Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This is another clunker. This is another C-tier movie. I don't know a lot of people who love this film. I think most people agree, at least until this last one, Dial of Destiny, is the weakest by far of all the Indiana Jones movies. What a disappointment, because it had been so long since the last one, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Harrison Ford here, what we thought at the time was going to be his last hurrah as Indiana Jones. Just massive problems from the start in its opening sequence that polarized so many people in terms of Indiana Jones surviving a nuclear blast by being inside a refrigerator with a lead lining, and it lost a lot of people inside the first 25 minutes. And then working towards this final sequence where they're trying to chase down these crystal skulls that are alien artifacts and have the capability of telepathy, and the Russians want them so that they can implant propaganda into the minds of Americans. Again, another movie that's absolutely strains credulity to the point you just have to tap out and say, I can't do this. It's just awful. And the last sequence, it's kind of laugh out loud ridiculous at points, and it's a real shame because it's Spielberg again, just cannot thread the needle, gets out ahead of his skis, and another bad sequel. And if you look at this listing overall, you've got some really, really strong, great stuff at the top, tempered by some really bad things at the bottom. So he's in this 20-year period where he's either going big and hitting these big home runs, they're triples and doubles into the gap, or he's striking out and hitting little ground outs to the pitcher. It's very uneven. Not a lot of consistency here. It's really interesting how I didn't plan it this way. Just kind of put these things where I thought they belonged. You've got 3 at the very top at S, 4 and A, just 1 B, and then 4 C's and a D. So pretty polarizing list, and a really interesting hit and miss time for Spielberg. Love to hear your comments about where you think these things belong, what I've overrated, underrated, completely missed the mark on. Please comment and let me know, because I'd love to hear it and I'd love to get back to you. And again, the big fun of these rankings is the debate afterward and sharing ideas on these things. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you made it all the way to the end. And thanks again for all of your support. Please subscribe if you like it. It absolutely helps the channel, and I definitely want to grow this thing. And hang in there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.